Hello friends, welcome to one more video. I'm not going to talk about UAE VAT this time. This is about AML and about DNFBPs. Who are these DNFBPs and how should we classify them? So let's look at some of the interesting points or the points which I have picked up from the regulations and see how we can unwrap that. The basic question which I started with, who is DNFBPs? So when I looked at the expansion of the words, this is designated non-financial business and professionals. Interesting. I thought, let me break this into three portions and see what all these meaning stands for. Designated, interesting word. We learned a lot from 2018, which is designated zone. No, we are not talking VAT here, but I just want to give you a framework of what is the definition of designated zone. And we're going to look at with the same meaning from an AML side also. A designated zone says a custom bonded area, ring fence, and all those things, right? So now let's connect what the designated definition stands to here in AML. It says appoint someone to a specific office or post. Yes, all DNFBPs are getting appointed to do something very specific. We'll get into that, what specific actions regulators are looking at designated non-banking business professionals to look for. Second word, which is interesting, which says non-financial, someone not part of the financial industry. So I can say someone, when I'm talking about individual and the corporates. And the third is a business and profession, who is in business and profession. That goes as simple as that. Why this important to say it's a designated word is very important, because with the framework of DNFBPs, authority is creating a new gatekeeper. That means they are creating one more gatekeeper apart from the banks and financial institutions within the framework of AML and counterterrorism financing. So what's going differently in this? So what the authorities are looking at, how they can designate some people, some organizations, so that they can prevent anything which is going wrong from an AML perspective. When I say AML, I'm talking about counterterrorism financing also. So that's a gatekeeper role which is getting assigned to all the DNFBPs. It's a very important role, and there is a lot of regulatory framework which is going to come up. And when you get a role, when you get a responsibility, there are a lot of actions also need to be taken. We'll talk about those actions in a later stage, but first look at who is DNFBP. So that's a critical thing. What I did, I just picked up the cabinet decision of 2019, which gives us some kind of a definition. Very specifically updated in Article 3. I'm going to bring up all those elements and we're going to talk about what is defined under that section as DNFBPs. First, very clear, anyone who is a broker and a real estate agent, when they conclude operations, so there is not something any different, they're talking full operations for the benefit of their customer with respect to purchase and sale of real estate. So if this thing is happening or you are conducting an activity for the client for the purpose of purchase and sale of real estate, you are part of a DNFBP framework, and further actions which are required for a DNFBP has to comply for. Let's look at further point. Second section says clearly, dealers in precious metal and precious stones. So coming up, whether you are dealing in gold, silver, platinum, all those precious metal which comes into the definition, and precious stone, including diamond and all colored, you can say, precious stones which are part of it, and is carrying out a single monetary transaction. That is one transaction, or you have several transactions that appear to be interrelated. So there is no period being defined. At least we should look at if there is a single transaction or multiple transactions which are happening for more than 55,000 or equal to 55,000, you are a DNFBP. So this is a definition which is coming up, and that's how we need to look at how we control those things. We are talking very straight away, it's a single monetary transaction or several transactions that appear to be interrelated. So there's a whole lot of definitions being given, a whole lot of clarification being given by the regulators in the specific guidance note also, which is issued for precious metal and precious stone traders. So dealers, which is being provided. So that can be referred to, but I'm just giving a holistic perspective, what it covers. Next comes interesting point. So this is on account of lawyers, notaries, independent legal professionals, independent accountants. when preparing, conducting, or executing financial transactions for the customer in respect of the following activities. Now, so many things have come up in this. Let's look at one by one. It talks about lawyers, notaries as part of it, independent legal professionals. So now independent legal professionals can be anyone who is not in the employment space, and independent accountants. Independent accountant also we're talking about who is not in the employment space. So if you are running a profession or you're having a consultancy kind of activity into the accounting space, then you may come back into this perspective. However, you need to make sure that you do some activities for the clients. That means the activity has to be done for the clients in respect of following activities. Now let's look at what are the activities they're talking about. If you're involved in sale and purchase on real estate for your clients. So example, I'll give you that lawyers, a lot of time what they do, they get into the escrow account arrangement with the clients. They make sure that the payments are being defined in one specific account, and they become controller of the funds before the actual sale and purchase of deal happens. Then yes, it's part of the DNFBPs. Second example, come management of fund owned by customer. Are you managing the funds which are owned by customer? It can be any form. Are you looking at how the checks has to be given or how the funds movement has to be gone? So if that management role comes into play, then yes, you are part of a DNFBPs, and you need to look at what further compliances are required. Management of bank account, saving account, or securities account. So if your name is in anywhere for your clients where you are an authorized signatory or a controlling person or someone who can interact with the bank for the purpose of either bank account, saving account, or security account. So any of these things, if you are authorized as a representative or have an authorized signatory to execute these transactions, you are part of DNFBPs. Remind yourself, I'm again and again telling, we are not talking about employees. We are talking about independent professionals and independent accountants. So we are not talking here anything on the employee side. Employee may have a signing authority, which is perfectly fine because he or she is not acting independently. They are part of the employment contract, and that's what their work is getting executed. We're talking about professionals who are who are working as an independent legal professionals or independent professionals or independent accountants. That's what we are referring here. Organizing contributions for the establishment. Now, contribution can be a donation or collection of funds or something which helps an organization to get into more funding arrangements. Operations or management of company. Now here there is a good perspective which is coming up. Again, here power of attorney has to be there to do those executions. So if you are operating or you are collecting funds for the establishment through from a foreign country to UAE or within the UAE, also becomes part of DNFBP. So that's where these things comes into play. Next thing is creating, operating, or managing legal person or legal arrangement. Now this is interesting point. Here, if you're creating a company for someone, when we say legal person, I'm talking about a corporate entity or a FZCO, FZE, whatever name we talk about, or a legal arrangement. Legal arrangement can be trust, foundations, or anything you're creating in that sense, you become part of DNFBPs. So these are action points which are coming in. So if you are, let's say, part of a company formation also, and you're managing the legal person or legal arrangement. When we say managing, that means you can be a manager in their trade license, but representing the company. You're not on the employment role, however you're managing. So these also becomes part of DNFBPs from a activity perspective. Selling and buying commercial entities. Now these are interesting point. A lot of M&A transactions or merger and acquisitions when are done, there are underlying contracts which are given to professionals, which can be legal professionals or an independent people or independent firms to execute the merger acquisitions. Then yes, that may also fall under the DNFBPs. We need to look at how these are being executed, what kind of transactions are there. This is coming in the preview of a DNFBP from a definition perspective. Next comes a further interesting thing which talks about corporate service providers, trust, or executing a transaction on behalf of the customer. Again, we are talking about CSPs, corporate service providers, and a trust. So that means you have you are a trustee or you are creating a trust so that you are executing the transaction on behalf of their customers. Now, this trust can be a structured trust or a formal trust and an informal trust also. So it's a very open area, and you need to look at very carefully that are you doing those kind of a transaction, but look at what transactions are being referred to. Are you acting as an agent in creation of establishment or a legal person? So you must have seen there are companies who are an agent for offshore setup in various jurisdictions within UAE. So if you are, yes, you are part of DNFBPs, and you need to look at further compliances from an AML perspective. Working as or equipping other persons to serve as a director or secretary of the company, as a partner or similar position in a legal person. So that means employee as a secretary or a director in the company or authorized signatory in that company, you become part of a corporate service provider role, and hence the DNFBP role or the DNFBP action kicks in. So substance creation is becoming one of the action plan from ESR. While providing a substance to the other company, maybe your professional firm or a legal firm or a corporate service provider firm has become a part of a DNFBP. So we need to look at from that perspective. Providing a registered office, working address, residence, correspondent address, or administrative address of a legal person or a legal arrangement. Now, in this case, if you are, there are instances where the professionals or the legal firms or the corporate service provider give their own address so that the communication can drive in, especially in the case of agents also. So then also you are sharing your post box number, you are sharing your office address to be used as a postal or a communication address or a registered office address, to be very specific, which is working in here. Then also the DNFBP kicks in and the AML compliance need to be looked at. Again, coming to the next point, which is performing work or equipping other persons to act as a trustee for a direct trust or to perform a similar function in favor of another form of a legal arrangement. So now here you are taking kind of a role where you are managing the functions, or you are arranging or you're equipping another person to act as a trustee. Here also DNFBP comes into play, and you need to look at the AML compliance. So that's what is coming up. Next comes working or equipping another person to act as a nominal shareholder in favor of another person. That means this is connected with UBO also, which we have seen under the UBO or ultimate beneficial owners section. Also, we are looking at, is there any nominal shareholder? That means you are nominating someone to represent as a shareholder in the company. That also becomes part of a DNFBP. Are you or your organization or as an individual also? Then DNFBP kicks in. So DNFBP is applicable for corporate entity, legal entity, and individuals also. Now there is another section, or the last point, which says other professional activities which shall be determined by the decision of the minister. So in this case, one point which is coming up is auditors. Yes, auditors are part of it. So there is a very clear guide which is being issued in April 2019, and later on there is a guidance note issued for specifically for auditors also. They're also part of the DNFBP for the compliance and looking at what all actions are required. There is a deadline which is coming up before 31st March. So look at whether you are getting into alignment or not. If you are, consult your legal person or the person who is advising you in this compliance space, and get yourself registered, especially for the GoAML, to make sure you are into the right side of the compliance. Thanks all. Wish you a good time and be safe till we meet together.